Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into the sources on a filmmaker who really fundamentally shaped how we see movies, F.W. Murnau.
Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau, yeah.
A true master, painting with light, shadow,
Mm.
getting into the soul of the story. His work changed things big time.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at his range. You've got the absolute chill of Nosferatu on one hand,
Right.
and then the just breathtaking beauty of Sunrise on the other. He wasn't just making movies, he was exploring what cinema could even be.
Pushing boundaries.
Totally. In ways that were, frankly, revolutionary back then, and you still see that influence today.
So our mission here is to use these sources to really get under the hood. Look at his life, those groundbreaking techniques, some key films, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out why his work still resonates, why it matters for you when you're watching pretty much anything today.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Friedrich Wilhelm Klump, born 1888. He wasn't like straight into film.
No.
No, he had this real intellectual bent, art history, literature, that sort of thing. But theater, that was his early passion, especially studying under Max Reinhardt.
Ah, Reinhardt's drama school.
Yeah.
Big influence.
Huge, you'd have to assume. That grounding in staging, visual storytelling, emotion, it clearly stuck with him.
And then he lands in the German film scene, early 1920s. What a time that was.
Oh, yeah. Very dynamic. You had expressionism, making waves, all those, exaggerated looks.
Very stylized.
Exactly. But alongside that, something else was brewing. Kammerspielfilm.
Chamber drama, right.
And it wasn't just a style, it felt like a whole different philosophy, where expressionism often went big and fantastical.
The film was smaller, more intimate.
Precisely. Focused on just a few characters, usually in very ordinary, almost claustrophobic settings. It was all about digging into their inner lives, their anxieties, their quiet despairs. Psychological realism, really?
And the sources really paint Murnau as a master of this. He just got how to use the camera to explore those internal states, didn't he?
He really did. You see it developing in films like The Haunted Castle back in 21.
Slows Vogelode, yeah.
And then it really finds its stride in The Last Laugh in 1924.
So what defined his approach there? Less melodrama?
Yeah, he stripped away a lot of that. The focus shifts. It's on the tiny gestures, the way an actor holds themselves, but also, crucially, the feel of the environment. The space itself tells the story.
Afflicting the character's mind.
Exactly. And achieving that, well, it took incredible attention to detail, but also new filmmaking tools, new techniques he pioneered.
Okay, let's get into those techniques, because that seems key, translating the internal into something visual. What did he do?
Well, first off, light. For Murnau, light wasn't just about making things visible. No, it was a narrative force, almost a character in itself. He mastered chiaroscuro, that, strong contrast between light and dark.
For mood, psychology.
Both. Think Nosferatu. The sources talk about Count Orlok's shadow. It's not just spooky.
It feels alive.
Yeah.
Like an extension of him.
Exactly, creeping upstairs on its own. It's his presence, made physical, made terrifying, purely through shadow.
And the last laugh. How did light work there?
Well, you have the bright, almost overwhelmingly grand hotel lobby.
Symbolizing his status, his pride.
Right. And then contrast that with the gloomy, cramped washroom he gets demoted to. The lighting tells you everything about his fall, his humiliation. Visually.
Which was different back then. Film lighting was usually flatter.
Much flatter, yeah. Often just even illumination. Murnau sculpted with light. He revealed anxiety on a face, created tension in a room. It was psychological lighting.
Okay, so light is a character. What else was in his toolkit? The sources mentioned the unchained camera. Sounds dramatic.
It kind of was. Probably his most groundbreaking innovation, really brought to life with his cinematographer, Carl Freund.
So what did it unchain it from?
From being stuck in one place. Before this, the camera was mostly static, like you're sitting in a theater seat just watching. Pathic.
And Murnau set it free.
Totally. The camera started to move. Fluidly, tracking alongside characters, panning across spaces, even doing complex crane shots.
Wow.
The textbook example is The Last Laugh. The camera glides through that hotel, it follows the doorman, it practically adopts his point of view.
So you're not just seeing him, you're almost being him, feeling his journey.
That's the idea. It's subjective. This movement wasn't just technical flash. It was about immersing the audience, building empathy, conveying his psychological state without needing title cards explaining everything.
Right, the camera becomes part of the storytelling.
An active participant, yeah.
And that connects to another point about using the environment itself, not just relying on actors acting.
Exactly. Expressionists might use really exaggerated sets and performances. Murnau was often more subtle. The setting wasn't just a background, it was fused with the character's emotions.
Like the castle in Nosferatu, feeling oppressive and decayed,
Or the tiny apartment in The Last Laugh feeling suffocating.
reflecting his crushed spirit.
Precisely. Or even the ethereal swamp in Sunrise. The locations become extensions of their hopes, their fears, their inner conflicts, the whole mise en scène, the architecture, the props, the atmosphere. It all adds emotional weight.
Telling the story through implication, through feeling the space.
Yeah. Which leads naturally to another big push of his, minimizing intertitles.
Those test cards. They were everywhere in silent films.
Everywhere. But Murnau dreamt of pure cinema. He believed the ideal film told its story visually, through image and movement alone. A universal language.
Did he actually manage it? No titles at all?
He tried, famously in The Last Laugh. He almost got there, though a few did remain, apparently due to studio pressure.
Still, that ambition. It must have pushed things forward.
Massively, it forced everyone to think, how do we convey plot, emotion, meaning just with pictures? It was a huge leap for cinema, finding its own unique voice.
Okay, so we have these amazing techniques. Expressive lighting, the moving camera, using the environment, minimizing text. Let's see them in action. Nosferatu, 1922. Probably the name people know.
Right, the unauthorized Dracula. But it's so much more. It's this poem of dread. And Max Schreck as Orlok, unforgettable.
Creepy doesn't cover it. Those features, the fingers.
Primal horror. But it's Murnau's direction, using negative images, weird cuts, those shadows we talked about. It gives it this dreamlike, or rather nightmarish quality.
That shadow climbing the stairs.
Yeah.
Pure visual terror.
Masterclass. It's about building unease, psychological horror through atmosphere, not just, things jumping out.
Okay, then The Last Laugh, 1924. Back to Kammerspielfilm.
And what an example. Such a powerful story.
Heartbreaking, really. A man's identity wrapped up in his job, his uniform.
And Emil Jannings is just incredible as the doorman. You feel every bit of his pride, then his crushing shame. And this is where that unchained camera just sings. It follows his emotional spiral perfectly.
And hardly any title cards needed. You read it all on Jannings' face and the way the world looks around him.
Exactly. Now, the sources do mention that tacked on happy ending.
Yeah, the studio insisted. Not his vision.
Apparently not. But the real gut punch of the film, that raw vulnerability about status and self-worth, that's all Murnau.
Okay, moving on. 1926, Faust. Feels like a shift in scale.
Oh, big time. This was epic. Adapting Goethe. It's a visual feast.
Showing off his technical skills.
Absolutely. Amazing special effects for the time. Grand spectacle. Jannings is back. Brilliant as Mephisto. Goes to Ekman as Faust. It's maybe less intimate than Last Laugh, but the Murnau visual magic is still there.
Any standout images?
That shot of Mephisto, huge wings spread, casting this enormous shadow over the whole town. Just stunning visual storytelling. Pure power and menace.
Wow. And then, Hollywood calls. Sunrise, 1927.
His first American film, lured over by William Fox, and what a film, often called one of the greatest ever made, period.
High praise. What's the story?
It's poetic, dreamlike, a simple story, really a man, his wife, temptation, loss, and then finding their way back to love, but the way it's told.
Pushing silent film even further.
To its absolute limits, it feels like. That opening title card sets the tone. This story is of no time or place. Universal themes.
And the techniques. Did he bring the unchained camera with him?
And how? He took it to another level. The tracking shots are breathtaking. The camera moves with such grace and complexity, pulling you right into their emotional journey. He uses superimpositions, visual metaphors, conveying thoughts and feelings without a word.
The sources highlight that sequence in the amusement park.
Oh, yeah. They rediscover their love amidst all the chaos and lights. It's just pure cinema, expressing joy, connection, redemption visually. It's beautiful.
And it got recognition immediately.
It did. Won the Oscar for a unique and artistic picture at the very first Academy Awards. A testament to its artistry right out of the gate.
Such a high point. But then, tragically,
Yeah.
his career was cut short.
Yeah, car accident in 1931. He was only 42. Incredibly young. He did make one sound film, Taboo, with Robert Flaherty. Still visually powerful, apparently.
But gone too soon.
Mhm.
Still, in that relatively short time, what an impact.
Immense. It's hard to overstate his influence.
So let's try. Summing it up, why does Murnau, this silent film director from, a century ago, still matter so much? What's the legacy?
Well, first, just fundamentally changing visual storytelling, making the camera an active player. That dynamic cinematography we take for granted, he helped invent that language, the idea that images are the story.
Foundational.
Absolutely. And then there's the psychological depth, showing that films could really get inside characters' heads, explore those complex inner worlds. That paved the way for so many psychological dramas.
Character studies.
Right. And the mood, the atmosphere, his use of light and shadow chiaroscuro, it's like he wrote the instruction manual for using visuals to create feeling, tension, dread, beauty.
Anyone using shadows owes him a debt.
Pretty much, yeah. And his influence wasn't just contained to Germany.
He brought that sophistication to Hollywood.
He did. You can see traces in people like Orson Welles. Think about the deep focus and expressive camera in Citizen Kane. And even now, filmmakers consciously or unconsciously draw on Murnau.
In what ways?
Atmospheric horror films, certainly. Art house films that relied on visual poetry. Psychological thrillers where the setting mirrors the character's state of mind.
Right.
That whole approach to profound visual narrative, it's still alive and kicking.
So F.W. Murnau, more than just a director, a true visionary, a poet using film.
Definitely. He expanded cinema's vocabulary, showed that shadows could speak, camera movement could reveal the soul, and real emotion was often in the quiet visual details.
His films aren't just history lessons.
Not at all. They feel alive. They still captivate, still inspire. They're proof of how powerful purely visual storytelling can be.
So here's something to think about next time you're watching a film. Maybe you feel that tension building from just the way a scene is lit, or you feel completely connected to a character just by how the camera moves with them.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, how much of that feeling, that direct emotional hit that bypasses dialogue, traces its roots back to the visual language Murnau pioneered nearly 100 years ago?